So when people discuss Dragon Quest 2, they usually highlight how rewarding the experience is. They argue that the game doesn't hold your hand, in fact it hates you. To a degree where people like to make fun of how weak 2 of your 3 party members are. Weak is a relative term though, the game is just harder than what they can handle. Getting through this hostile game is something memorable that modern gaming rarely offers. The feeling is usually reserved for real life problems or meta commentary. You have 3 party members that are all specialists in something vital to your adventure that the hero in the last game was capable of. One takes hits and does good damage, one dies and one can blow the enemies up. It gives me a similar vibe to the Lost Vikings, and this is my favorite idea in this game. Further, there's a bit of story when you recruit them, but nothing worthwhile. The game does however invoke the feeling of being a tightly knit group of children that are in way over their head, that all rely on each other, and that does so almost exclusively through gameplay. Dragon Quest 2 also has a lot of things I decided to take for granted in the last video. The music doesn't always fit if we're interpreting it as an oppressive, super difficult game, but I like some compositions. Town exploration still exists, and a lot of staples of the series started here. But look at this. In an attempt to say something positive, I'm starting to write a retrospective, the thing I set out not to do. At this point this video would be done if I did it in the style of the Dragon Quest 1 video, because the discussion surrounding this game is never about how much someone currently enjoys an aspect, the very thing these videos are about, but they're exclusively about how good the NES version was in its time. Dragon Quest 1 has a layer of plausible deniability. I can say that it invokes a cozy atmosphere, but unlike Dragon Quest 1, Dragon Quest 2 demands so much more. Dragon Quest 1 was simple and elegant, easy to get into. Dragon Quest 2 is a drowned corpse. It's a great example of less being more. I don't see any value in it beyond it being a stepping stone. It aged terribly after the novelty wore off, but I don't enjoy dissing it either, so I'll make this as short as possible. More moving pieces doesn't automatically result in more depth. The slots in Dragon Quest 11 can have all the deepest of mechanics going on, but understanding them doesn't amount to anything since you only have one valid option: to press A. There is no decision making, and having a couple of valid decisions to think about is much more important than having more things going on. There's very little depth to the plentiful combat of Dragon Quest 2, and it doesn't have the extra layer of party building ahead of time like later games. Non-linearity was good in Dragon Quest 1 because it meant that no matter where you stumbled, you had something to do. Dragon Quest 2 on the other hand has lots more interconnections and some cryptic moments. It's very much possible for you to go somewhere and have nothing to do there yet, or it's possible that you already visited an area but had no way of knowing what you had to do there. My favorite example of this is the horrible sun quest that took me hours to find when I first played this game. Searching the ground is rare in this game, and there's no spells to check for treasure. The only way you would know where it was is if you spammed the echo flute in every room throughout the whole game and then went on to check every single tile in the room manually. And I haven't even talked about the Cave of Roan yet, the possibly most iconic part of this game, maybe next to Prince Kenok's coffin. While dungeon designs were simple and easy to understand in the last game, in this one they are complex, but not in the sense that you have interesting and hard to solve puzzles, but in the sense that the Cave of Roan has 50 dead ends, 3 looping hallways and 200 pitfalls that send you back half an hour. And when you wipe out, your party members don't get revived, so you lose half your gold for dying, and then you need to pay a prohibitively expensive hospital bill for the other 2 party members, and since you just lost a bunch of gold you might not be able to afford it, so you need to go out by yourself and farm gold, and it becomes really messy really fast. Playing Dragon Quest 2 reminds me of arguing with someone that doesn't try to make a coherent point. The only goal is to use the biggest and most obscure words possible, even if that's not the most precise phrasing. they also hate you. Dragon Quest 2 keeps being remade because Dragon Quest 1 is too short to sell by itself and that game is better off being kept short. And so they packed Dragon Quest 2 onto that cartridge. Look at how short my Dragon Quest 1 video was. Even I was tempted to pack both of these games into a single video. So now I'm going to break one of the only rules I set for myself and talk about historical context. Dragon Quest 2 did not have enough time in the oven due to multiple factors. It's a half-baked game, which by itself isn't a big deal, none of this is. But what truly baffles me is that the remakes keep trying to be faithful to the original instead of trying to be what it could have been with ample time. There were slight balance changes and I especially appreciate the mobile and Switch versions adding a sparkle to the Sun Quest, which doesn't make the Sun Quest a fun experience, but it removes any experience. And the game is better for it. That's also why those two versions are the best versions of Dragon Quest 2, but even if theoretically they had made a lot more of the mandatory quality of life changes, like adding a bag, starting the princess at a higher level, allowing you to select zoom locations, and it removed the level spikes even farther, that wouldn't be enough to salvage this husk. At the core of Dragon Quest 2, after all the novelties surrounding it rotted away over the years, there lies nothing. If someone that truly cared was tasked to make a Dragon Quest 2 remake, they would need to make a new game from the ground up with a layer of Dragon Quest 2 paint and call it a reimagining.